So those of you who do not know me yet, let me just introduce myself real quick since I am your host. My name's Michelle Calloway. I am the CEO of Revealio, which is a very innovative video storytelling company, but we also do publicity. So we love to raise your visibility, especially love to work with purpose-driven entities and nonprofits, but we are here to help support anybody's increased visibility. Right, Peggy Lee? We're going to talk more this afternoon about that, so that'll be great. Also, I am the founder of Tech with Heart Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization that focuses on empowering students and entrepreneurs to embrace technology so that we can stay competitive and relevant with what's happening in the business landscape today, like not focusing on strategies that worked 10 years ago, but wanting to focus on strategies that will keep you definitely in the forefront of the way things are going when it comes to technologies, strategies, and systems. So the format for this meetup is very interactive. So I hope that you've got your voice ready because we want to hear from you. At the we are going to start off by letting I'm going to more or less kind of do a 10-minute going through some pointers, some tips, and some suggestions on how to use technologies and online platforms to start raising your visibility through publicity. And then we're going to open the floor up for discussion. And if any of you are in the marketing space or PR space, I know Louise, you probably have some tips you want to add, but I want to go over my tips first, and then you can add to or ask questions about. So there will be an open discussion section of this meetup. And then after that, we do break out into groups where we get to know each other a little bit better and figuring out how we can potentially support one another or ask good questions so that you can break through a barrier perhaps that you're having in any one of these realms, especially when it comes to using technology for increased visibility through publicity. So with your permission, and with that said, I'm going to record. Oh, it's already recording. I forgot it was set to auto record. So here's what I want to do is I have the Tech with Heart show in where I interview experts weekly. We talk about different, technology, systems, and strategies that are going to empower entrepreneurs. What I would like to do, with your permission, is record this and then publish it on my podcast. Does anybody have any problems with doing that? If so, can you just raise your hand? Because maybe what we'll want to do is just have you turn your camera off. But we definitely want you to be involved in this. I just think that what we're probably going to discuss today and what we're going to hear from you is going to really tremendously help somebody out there that's looking to raise their visibility. So if you guys are okay, which I think we're okay, we're going to go ahead and move forward. We are also welcoming you to share a bit about you in the chat. This is, if you want to just share in your introduction on chat, the problem that you solve and how you solve it uniquely, you're welcome to put contact information in the chat. And also that would be helpful for me because I might be reaching out to you, because if you're going to be a part of this recording, why not do a mention of you when we go and do our publicity about this recording next week? So give me as much contact information as possible so that I can follow up with you and tag you when we go. So that means definitely give us your LinkedIn, give us your Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. If you have those, put that in the chat as well. All right. So Patricia, I just didn't know if you knew that your name is a little bit spelled on your Zoom thing. It says Petari.
Yes, it certainly is.
All right. So number one about publicity is make sure your name is spelled right. Okay. All right. So that was funny. I'm glad I caught that. You want to fix that? Do you know how to fix it on Zoom?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so again, I'm going to just go ahead and start as if this is the start of the recording right here, right now. Welcome to the Tech with Heart Empower Meetup monthly. We do these monthly to empower entrepreneurs to be far more competitive and relevant with how they're doing business online. My name is Michelle Calloway. I am the founder of the Tech with Heart Network and Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization focused on definitely elevating and supporting and providing a nurturing learning environment for entrepreneurs and students so that you can be competitive in life and in business. So today's topic is publicity tech tips in 2022. I'm going to go ahead and share my thoughts on some tech tips that are definitely working and helping move the needle. And then I'm going to open the floor for discussion. I just want to explain the difference between publicity and marketing. Some people don't really fully understand the difference. And publicity is more of a earned kind of, awareness, recognition. Think anytime somebody leaves a testimonial about you, anytime somebody leaves a 5-star review, maybe you get mentioned in a magazine by a reporter, that's publicity. There's also opportunities for you to get a shout out on social media from another, an influencer or somebody that's maybe got a bigger network than you, or just any kind of shout outs. That's all publicity. Anytime you are putting yourself out there on the internet, whether it's a profile on LinkedIn or whether it's a profile on Alignable, that is actual publicity. So these are visibilities, opportunities that you're doing, that you're putting yourself out there, your message, your brand, and it's allowing people to discover you. So the marketing side comes in when you want to actually create some sort of a directional sale or leading somebody to something that's going to lead them down a path towards a sale. That's where marketing shifts a little bit. Publicity could be mostly earned, which is the best kind, by the way. You don't even have to spend a dime, but others are like bragging about you. Yay, that's a good stuff. But there's also opportunities in where you can pay for certain levels of publicity. But marketing, when it comes to advertising and marketing, usually you are spending ad dollars to get your visibility in front of more people. So that's a little bit of the difference. So I have I'm going to talk a little bit about types of publicity and the importance of publicity. It was just mentioned, it's about gaining recognition, gaining awareness, but it's usually less expensive than marketing. It's a great way to gain credibility, meaning people look upon you as an authority figure in your industry. You're an expert now in their eyes because they see that others are bragging about you. So that's good when it comes to credibility, because when people hear about what you're doing, the first thing they are going to do is probably do a quick little research on you. And the more publicity where others are bragging about you or are recognizing your expertise and building you up, it just strengthens that person's ability to trust you without having met you yet. And that's kind of their due diligence. They're researching you to identify whether or not you are the one that they want to invest in. And it also opens up the door, publicity opens up the door for collaborations, because you're gaining awareness. And so people are going to come to you and they're going to be like, yes, I love what you're doing. Now I would like to see if we can potentially partner and do a complementary partnership of any sort. And it strengthens your brand. And your brand is not just your logo. Your brand is definitely kind of a synopsis of who you are, why you do what you do, how you do what you do, and how it solves a problem uniquely different than other people that are solving a similar problem. That's kind of encompassing your brand. Yes, it does include your logo, it includes your main message, it also includes your color schemes, and just kind of an essence of who you are or your business. So publicity strengthens your brand. There's different types of publicity, and this is where I want to talk about tech tips to help you get publicity. So let me go back over here to my notes. Okay, so when you think of publicity in the online world, I just want you to remember 3 letters. It's called SEO, search engine optimization. If you want to be discovered, the best thing that you could be doing is using keywords that are going to lead people to you when they go to do what? They search. How many of you use Google like daily for searching for things? I know I use it at least 10 times a day, right? So you want to be discoverable when somebody Googles how to blah, 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 or I'm looking, whatever their search keywords are. By now, hopefully you know enough about your target audience and you know the struggles that they're having. So you would want to somehow use keywords in your website, in your profiles, in your about sections on your profiles. I'm talking profiles on social media, Google My Business, all of those things. You're going to want to use those keywords to, again, you get that search engine to pick you up and lead people to you. It's free. SEO, free. And it's very, very powerful. All right, so that's the first thing. And we're going to keep realizing that that's such a critical aspect. That's why I put it first, because all these other tech tips I'm going to give you are going to all point back to, well, are you using your keywords properly? Are you directing people to you? I know when I got recognized by Inc. magazine, when I first launched my Revealio company, we launched an augmented reality marketing tool. Well, augmented reality was pretty much an unheard of word. But when Pokemon Go exploded in 2016, all of a sudden, augmented reality was a word that some people were searching. And guess who was searching? Inc. magazine was searching to discover, to talk to people who were doing something with augmented reality. They found my profile, they found my story, and then voila, they reached out to me for a feature article. That's earned publicity. So that is how that works towards your advantage. All right, we're going to talk about Google My Business profiles. Now, Google offers every single small business owner a free mini website. So if you're brand new to being a business owner, you don't have to necessarily shell out money to build a website. Start with letting Google serve you up, serve people to you because of certain keywords, images, and videos you can put right on your Google My Business page for free. This is a great place to send people to do reviews for you after you have completed the work for them. Make sure that they're a happy, satisfied customer because you're going to want them to go on and leave you a 4 or a 5-star review. Hopefully it's a 5-star, right? But 4s are still good. It actually shows that, hey, you're not perfect and people don't necessarily relate with perfect. But yes, if you can find out that they're a very happy and satisfied customer, they can go leave you a review right there for free. And they can also leave video testimonials on your Google My Business page. Those are powerful. All right, the next thing I would like to suggest tech tips is make sure that there is continuity over all of your social media profiles, meaning imagery-wise, your face looks the same on the profile pics. When it comes to like header graphics, make sure that it's all the same color scheme. The messages are similar and it feels as though it's the same company, okay? Throughout all of your social media profiles. And it makes it people to, using messaging on those profiles that make it easy for people to understand the problem that you solve and why you are the answer to their problems. Uniquely, why they should choose you. That's a great way to build credibility and get your publicity going online. Then, if you can, create a professional website or at least a landing page. Let's just say you're an author and you're launching a book. I know Lisa is an author. So for every book, she can choose to make a separate landing page for every book so that that book itself shines like its own thing, or she can create a collaborative website where all of her books are listed and then each one can be clicked on and go learn a little bit more, or it's all about presentation, right? So in the world of web, if you can have a website, just make sure the website is designed well using SEO keywords and messaging that will indeed attract people to you because of the problem that you solve, rather than just making a brochure type website that just sits there and looks pretty, but it's not engaging. It doesn't attract and it doesn't give anybody a place to go once they're there. So that's another great tip on publicity, guys. These seem like maybe no-brainers, but they're worth mentioning because this is where technology comes in and helping you have visibility, credibility, and authority 24/7. So you can literally make sales while you sleep if you influence somebody to want to do business with you with the messaging and the visuals the videos that you have out there. So speaking of videos, I believe there are 3 key videos that every business should have created. Either they create them themselves or they hire somebody to create them for them. The first one is an intro video, a welcome video, some people call it. It's where you kind of do your introduction, explaining the problem that you solve and how you solve it uniquely. That's your special sauce, we call it, your unique differentiator. You're going to want to create a small, short video that you can put on your website that helps people understand why you. And that also can be repurposed, of course. That is publicity, because you're now able to meet them and speak with them without ever having to actually meet with them one-on-one. The second video, if you're offering a special system, a service, or a product, you're going to want to do an explainer video around that specific problem-solving product or service. So that's the second video, explainer video. First one is an intro video. Second one is an explainer video that shows how your solution works. And then the third one that I recommend at least one is get a testimonial video. Somebody that you worked with, get that created. And sometimes the best way to get those created is to get that person on Zoom with you after you've completed whatever project and say, how did you feel like that went? Ask them if you can record that, and then you use that as a testimonial video on your website. And if they happen to have gone over to your Google, which I highly recommend, you can pull in that Google review underneath their video and in written word also say what they're saying in the video. That's publicity, other people bragging about you. All right, moving on. There's this thing called press releases. Some people think that they're valuable, others think that it's just a bunch of hooey, but I'm going to tell you what my thoughts are on this. Press releases can be free or they can be paid for because of the distribution level that you're going to get for that payment. And it's also about how well the press release is written. Some people are really gifted. Louise here is a copywriter. So she writes press releases. I know we write press releases. It's about how it is being presented and how the titles and the subtitles are being played into the scheme of what's relevant in the news space and what's going to be something that the reporters are going to want to pick up and share. So that is a great way to gain SEO, especially if you're launching something or having a really unique event, or you're wanting to do at least one press push about how you're uniquely different and why it matters to somebody else, why it should matter to somebody else. Those are great ways to use press releases, because what happens is it gets put out there into the SEO world and raises your credibility, especially if you do one of those more higher quality press releases where you will get picked up by major news outlets like NBC's, CBS's, Fox's. So you can put those logos on your website or your landing page for your offering, and then that allows people to say, oh, wow, these news sources felt that this was worthy, so therefore your credibility just goes, whoop. It's a great way to start on something. It's a great way to start, but don't expect necessarily that an online news release is going to generate a reporter reaching out to you. That takes a little bit more effort. So we're going to talk about that now. When it comes to online tech tips for publicity and building relationships with reporters, Twitter is a great place to start developing relationships with local reporters. And you can actually go to your, you probably know your local news stations, what those little acronyms are. KTVU is ours over here. So you can actually go and research the reporters that work for that news source, and you can start following them on social media. Study them a little bit as a human so that you can find some relatable angles. Perhaps, you know, if you find out that, like, for me, I'd be like, oh, if somebody's a dolphin lover, I'd be like all over that. I'd be like, I could talk to anybody about dolphins for like hours and just have it just be friendly and start building relationships with them. But then finding also out what kind of stories they like to report on, human interest stories or as a political stories. You want to know what that reporter's like general zone of like kind of stories they like to report on, so that you know enough about those reporters that when you reach out to them with the potential pitch, that it seems as though it's in their wheelhouse and it's something that you believe that they would find interesting. So remember, reporters are people too. Treat them as such and you'll get farther. Okay, so influencers. Now this is an exciting time, right? On social media. I mean, there are micro influencers that are blowing up brands right now, especially on newer platforms like TikTok. All right, not everybody's like on TikTok, and it's okay, it's okay. I just wanted to mention to you that it's a different world today to try and get an influencer to speak about your brand than it was just 2 years ago. Things are shifting fast. So if you, let me just give you a for instance. I know micro influencers, they're nobodies who are now somebodies because they jumped on the TikTok bandwagon early and started making a name for themselves. So now brands like clothing companies or makeup companies are reaching out to these micro influencers whom you've probably never heard of. And that's fine. But guess what? They have an 8 million following on TikTok. So that's influence right there. So these brands are reaching out to these guys saying, hey, if I give you this clothing for free, will you wear it and do a funny little dance in it and just mention us? And so there are unique ways where you can build a relationship with some of these influencers, maybe build a collab, or if you get them earlier where they're not at 8 million yet, but maybe they've only got 1 million, or maybe they only got 500,000 followers, you can get some pretty dang awesome publicity if they love what you're doing. So you follow those people, reach out to them. They're humans and they're happy to get free stuff and they'll talk about it. So, I mean, just these are some really good publicity tips. I hope you might take advantage of them. So, all right, the next one I have is a national magazine feature. I had mentioned earlier that Inc. magazine reached out to me and did an article about our augmented reality business cards. That was such a huge boost for my company early on. And I still, by the way, publicize the heck out of that. Don't ever stop publicizing your publicity. It's a very big deal to continue to use that as leverage. So there are opportunities where you can, build relationships with some of these magazine. I mean, I know so many people are doing online magazines. If you want a national magazine feature, there are opportunities where you can pay. I know my company, we do paid placement in national magazines for leverage, building credibility, but there is opportunities where you can, reach out to editors asking if, you can submit your story because you think it's relevant. And remember, it's all about their audience and that's who they're looking to serve. So the more your pitch can kind of talk about that in your email or how you ever reach out to them on Twitter or Instagram, perhaps, make sure you're making it about their audience and not just about you. That's a good little pointer. But getting published in a national magazine is a pretty darn big deal. So at some point in your journey, I hope that all happens for each and every one of you. It's pretty positive. That's pretty awesome. All right, so there's this other thing that we can do. And my publicity coach is Jill Lublin. How many of you guys know Jill Lublin? Just raise your hand. She's phenomenal. So Jill taught me everything that I'm teaching you guys. So there's a couple places where you can online be posting announcements for your business. Announcements could be, hey, Tech with Heart just got sponsored by Google. That would be a good worthy announcement because the Tech with Heart nonprofit is doing some pretty amazing initiatives to support student apprenticeships and building up entrepreneurs. So we could write a story about it and post it as an announcement. And there's many platforms that help you with SEO, going back to the SEO again, where they're happy to serve you up in a Google search when you do regular announcements. So I'm going to just list a few platforms. Google, Google My Business, guys, be using that platform to do announcements, not just social posts, but like announcements. Then there's local online newspapers. They have a community section where they will allow you to submit stories that will get published on their online version of their newspaper. There's Patch. How many of you raise your hands are using Patch? Patch is a local community-based online platform that's growing leaps and bounds. It's free to create an account, and your announcement basically gets served up anytime somebody in your local area is searching for something related to what you're talking about. Alignable. Alignable is like a smaller version of LinkedIn, specifically laser focused on supporting local small businesses. It's free. You can create announcements there. It'll get automatically broadcast out to your local community. And then Alignable also allows you to join groups just like LinkedIn and Facebook. So again, it's a great place for you to get your profile built up, do regular announcements, and then start communing with other neighbors or other small business owners in your region or your industry. And then Nextdoor. Have you guys heard of Nextdoor? It's another community-based app where you can have like discussion groups for homeowners associations or people within homeowners associations. This is also another great place for you to do free announcements. And every single one of those platforms I just mentioned favor SEO. So it helps you get more visibility by simply just doing an announcement. Maybe do one a quarter or more often, as long as it seems relevant. And awards. Okay, so Alignable just did this whole thing where like, oh, nominate so-and-so for like local small businessman person of the year in this particular local area. And so that you can get involved in stuff like that. You can submit online applications for certain awards in your industry. Don't forget about that kind of stuff, because when you can say that you were the small business expert in marketing for 2022, I mean, that's credibility, that's publicity, good stuff right there. So don't forget to apply for those types of things, because they don't always come looking for you, you know what I mean? All right. So next one is what we're kind of doing here today is show up to online networking events. Make a name for yourself by showing up, making sure your name is spelled properly on your window thing. Make sure that it, if you wanted to, you can even do a dash like I've done, Michelle Calloway dash revealio dash techwithheart. So I'm identifying right away my two companies, as far as at least by name, right? So I put that in my title. Other people have used that to put their phone number, you know, so there's different ways you can do that, but make sure it's your name. Like if you're sharing a Zoom room with your husband, your spouse or whatever, just make sure that when you're popping into a meeting, you know how to go in and quickly change that name so that it's your name being presented. And then when you do get a chance to introduce yourself, like we will do in a little bit, be succinct with how you introduce yourself so that you create an impression. And this is all coming back down to your branding. Because if I were just going on and on and on, and I wasn't really making a point very often, you would get bored of listening to me, I'm sure. My voice might grind on you. So there's a lot of things when it comes to how you present yourself, and you'll get better at it the more you show up and take feedback. But do online networking events as often as you can in relatable groups, where either the group is going to be filled with potential clients that you could help, or potential partners that could see you as a, you know, collaborative, complementary referral partner, or if you're looking for funding, you know, a room that you know is going to be filled with investors, or etc. You know, just plant yourself where you believe you're going to be able to be of service, and also be ready to present yourself when given that opportunity, and present yourself within 30 seconds in some form or fashion that's going to hopefully lead people to lean in and say, tell me more about that. That sounds really interesting. Make sure your camera is good, your lighting's good, etc. All right, now speaking on stages is another great way for you to gain publicity. And in an online world, there's still a lot of online events happening in which you could potentially pitch yourself to be a speaker, or email said event planner pitching yourself as a speaker. A lot of times you go to online events and they say, I'm looking for speakers. Hey, well, when they mention that, make sure you let them know not only are you a speaker, but what you speak about and how you believe that that would be of value to their audience. So those are the things you need to include in your pitch, how it's going to be valuable to your audience, their audience. And then there's guest podcasting. Podcasting is really big right now. Platforms like Clubhouse blew up during the pandemic. So the more you can be on somebody else's stage, the better. That's publicity. Sometimes it's paid, sometimes it's free. Sometimes it's free, you get a chance to make an offer at the end. Those are all excellent opportunities. So just take advantage of these opportunities that present themselves when they present themselves, when you're doing online networking or you're doing group networking on platforms such as Facebook, LinkedIn, Alignable, and you see somebody saying, I'm looking for speakers, or if you could, what could you talk about in 20 minutes without any preparation? Use those opportunities as best you can to just present yourself in a way that doesn't come across too thirsty. Have you ever heard of that phrase? You're like, oh, you need me, but do it in a way that comes across confident and influential. So you want to, again, make it stay focused on the value that you would offer the audience. So this is online platforms. You can be utilizing those to pitch yourself gently, I guess. And then there's hosting events. So events is another great way to gain publicity. And this is another great way to use that public announcement type of thing. Host an event or start your own show, start your own podcast, start your own TV show. I know that's one of the things I'm excited about helping people with through my Revealio company, because if you're really ready to go big and you want to have people be attracted to you, then go bigger on bigger stages and be more consistent in showing up and doing your show, and people will come to you. So a great way, I know Oprah, what does Oprah actually sell? She just basically provided a platform where she let other people shine. And so then she became known as a person who loves to help other people shine, but she became like all of a sudden this guru expert. But what is she a guru expert in? Well, it was all about just how to help others be elevated. So you could do something like that on your show, if that is something that you want to do. So that's kind of my synopsis. I am going to open the floor now, asking you to just use the little emoji icon that says raise hand. And that way we can have you come up. When you do get a chance to come up, just do a quick little intro as far as your expertise, okay? Because your name doesn't need to be shared, it's on the screen. And then just share a little bit about like your expertise, and then ask your question or share a comment about all of these things that we just went over. Who would like to go first? Anybody? Just use your little raise hand icon. I'd love to hear from you guys. If you don't know how to use your raise hand icon, then, okay, we got Lisa. Lisa, go ahead, unmute.
Hello, everyone. So glad to be here. I am a writer and a strategic self-care speaker and blogger. And those are the things that I care about the most, in areas where I have expertise and where I would love to talk to you or your teams about what strategic self-care is, and a couple of like really quick high-level tips for how you can start digging into it right now. What's really valuable to me today is, Michelle, one of the areas of book promotion, I'm a crime novelist, that's really a weak link for me, is how to get connected to local media. I have just failed miserably in that. I have a really good press release. I have I have really good marketing collateral, and I've been very specific and targeted about who I send these materials out to, and literally just nada. So I really appreciate your tip about Twitter and building relationships with people there. So thank you very much.
Being able to do business online is crucial for survival, especially during times of social distancing. So how do you survive and thrive in the sea of digital noise? It's a lot like fishing. You need to know who your perfect customer is so that you could use the right kind of lure to attract them. We help you catch your perfect customer and retain them for future sales through highly converting websites, influencer mobile apps, getting you featured in the news and on TV. Hi, my name is Jerry Bowden, U.S. Army veteran and president of Revealio Software Solutions. Our goal is to help you rise above the competition, be seen as an expert authority in your industry, and embrace technology to stay competitive for long-term success. It's more affordable than you may think. So reach out to us at revealio.com, and together we will make your business come alive.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for mentioning that. And maybe there's somebody else in this group that has more to add to how to connect with reporters, local reporters, to help them see the value in elevating your story. So stay tuned. All right, so let's see, we had George next.
Hello, everyone. Michelle, you just gave us all an MBA's worth of publicity bullet points. Thank you for doing so. I got full page of notes here. My business is Business Consulting Solutions based in Lansing, Michigan. As I posted, we strive to provide practical solutions to help business owners fix, grow, or sell their business with a particular focus on the business of business. What is meant by that? Many individuals are geniuses when it comes to creating a new service or inventing a new widget, but turning that into a sustainable and profitable business is actually outside their area of expertise. We can provide them the bridge until they hire the people that will handle the business side of things, or in some cases, we've become that bridge, and albeit temporary. I mean, relationships have lasted well over a year. I've got one right now, it's in month 16. There's another one previously, it's gone over 3 years. Others a matter of 2 or 3 months. It depends on situation. So, and I've helped businesses from startups all the way up to businesses doing up to 20 million in annual sales. And it varies. One of the reasons I enjoy what I'm doing is because no two set of circumstances are ever the same. If you have an outline, Michelle, that you were following through, I think I got just about everything, but boy, you shared with us a lot of powerful tidbits. And if you do have something that you can share with us after this event or something like that, I'm sure we would all be appreciative of you doing so.
I will actually post my little outline here in the chat now that I've gone through it, because I didn't want anybody to be distracted while I was sharing it. So let me see about that. Thanks, George. Is there anything else?
Responding to Lisa, I'd say, if you haven't had already, have a one-on-one with Michelle. And the key of what Michelle had said is building that relationship. I've been very blessed by having business articles published since 1990. I know some of you going, life existed back then? But anyways, and I've got another one coming out in the May issue of the Small Business Association of Michigan's bi-monthly magazine called Focus. And with that, it's reaching out, allowing yourself to be a subject matter expert, known as an SME. So before I was able to write articles, I offered myself up as an SME in business brokerage. That's the buying and selling of business part. And probably quoted 2, 3, 4 times. And I was careful that when you're talking with reporters, you got to be very careful. Research what you should say and what you shouldn't say, and how you should say it and how you shouldn't say it, because it can bite you in the butt if you're not careful.
I'm just gonna add to that real quick, George, because what I've experienced too is if you don't present them with the spin that they want, like what's relevant with what's happening today, they will create a spin, and sometimes they'll publish it without you getting to see what they spun your story to do. And so sometimes it doesn't end up making you look the way that you wanted to look. So keep that in mind too. George, you mind if we move on to our next? Okay, great. Patricia, why don't you unmute and share a little bit about who you help and how you help them?
Okay, so I do mindset productivity coaching. And so I work with small businesses and entrepreneurs, and most of the businesses hire me to help them double or triple their business in a year. And the problem is that most of what we do, about 95% of our day, is habitually done. And so nothing much changes from year to year. So I help people to start thinking into results and to use their inside power that they have to shift and become really amazing in what they're doing. And I help them to accomplish things by first to think bigger so that they clarify their goal and they set a goal that really inspires them so that they move forward, and then how to become bigger so that they get in harmony with what they want to do, and they first become that person so that they can accomplish that goal, and then to play bigger so they can actually get themselves out of their own way and see the opportunities that are around them and play on a bigger stage.
So did you have any add-tos or thoughts about all the different publicity tech tips that we went over today?
Well, so I worked with Jill. In fact, I just finished doing one of her courses, and it was just a really good reminder of all those things. And, you know, I know she would say to, do certain things each month so that you stay on top of it, because it's easy to become overwhelmed and overburdened with things. So if you can stay on top of things and just take small bites every day towards something, that it works really well.
I'm going to also, because everything that I did share, I did learn from Jill. She's my mentor. And so I love it because I actually help people implement what she teaches, because sometimes they do struggle with the tech or the how-to parts. But the other thing, social media is a great platform for you to do a combination of PR, education, and selling. Most people don't think of social media as selling, but if you do it in a way in which you are influential, you will actually compel people to want to do business with you. So in a way, it is selling, because you are giving them the doorway into how to go purchase a special offer or whatnot. And you see social media, some people are complaining it's becoming too advertising. And so I would urge you to come across influential educational more often than ever being selling. But at some point, the ratio needs to be maybe like 1/4 of it is where you're actually making an offer. And then other times you're more or less inspiring or building your brand recognition and helping people to understand who you are, what you're all about, and the value you bring, and educating them, the how-to stuff, how to do this, the FAQ, frequently asked questions about this, and giving them like little tiny tidbits of things that could potentially move the needle. It's a great way for people to begin to know, like, and trust you online. Well, we're glad you're here, Patricia, so stick around. Luis, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to unmute and introduce yourself and what the problem that you solve and any tips you have, because I know you do publicity too.
Hi, I'm a writer editor, but I focus on 3 areas, specifically press releases, book editing and writing, and blog writing and editing. So Lisa, this is what I want to tell you about press releases. Because I have been an editor, so I used to receive thousands of them a day. So I know how to actually get pickup, because I've been on both sides of it. Okay, so the first thing, everybody's correct about building a relationship with the reporters, but one of the ways you can do that, and without actually, and I'm going to go old school, and I'm sorry, Michelle, but it still works. Take somebody out to lunch or breakfast. There used to be 30 years ago, when I first got into the business, media breakfast was a very common thing. People would come into the newsroom and they would bring donuts, and that really got you to know the local businesses. That has kind of faded because people jumped online and everything now is following online. But journalists still like free food. So if you call up a journalist and you offer to take them to lunch just to get to know them, not with a story pitch, it'll do a lot to have you get your press release picked up. The second tip for that is what Michelle said about the way it's written. It has to have a hook. A good hook is connecting it to a holiday. So for example, St. Patrick's Day, if your murder mystery takes place at St. Patrick's Day, you could tie your press release into the news that they're already looking for that particular holiday. And then the third tip is helpareporterout.com. I think it's harrow.com or .org. But you sign up, you fill out a profile, and that makes you an expert. So whenever they have a question for that particular, like mystery writing or suspense or what, they will look on that website, and then they'll interview you for that particular website. Because you're listed on that website as an expert when they're on deadline and they need an expert. So those are my 3 tips about getting picked up by a press release. Also, one more thing. Michelle mentioned local newspapers, how they have the community section where you can put in your info. The radio stations also have that same thing. So if you have an event coming up, you can put it on the radio stations and it's perfectly free. So that's also another way of building that relationship. And one more thing, sending out more than one press release. So if you send one a month, then they'll start to see your name over and over again. Okay, I'm done now.
Well, those were all such great, helpful tips. And I just going to mention a little bit about Harrow, Help a Reporter Out. Really good for those of you who are gifted in the writing. I know Peggy Lee, she's getting ready to go. She is a writer. She publishes books as well. I know Louise, you're a writer. And so, and Lisa's a writer. She does write fantasy, or not fantasy, I'm sorry, fiction novels, crime novels, etc. And that's very like a special niche, but at the same time, writing comes fairly easy. So Help a Reporters Out, they're looking for people to help them by helping to write stories around certain angles in which they want to report about. So if you sign up for Harrow, which is free, you get daily notifications from these reporters saying, you know, do you or anybody you know have any expertise around, and then they list the different topics. They actually, throughout the topics, list how they want to go in the direction of discussing that topic. So they really do give you a lot of guidance there. So it's worthy of signing up. You know, especially if you have some time and you want to enter that realm of providing them with good copy that they could potentially run or just tweak lightly and run. Big time recognition though. And when, of course, Jill, I'm going back to Jill saying, publicize your publicity. If you do get picked up, publicize the heck out of that on social media, on podcasts, write it into your bio as featured on, and then whatever that source was, because that really boosts your credibility. So thank you so much. We're going to open the floor now to Peggy Lee Hansen. Go ahead and introduce the problems that you solve and how you uniquely solve them, and then a little bit about any questions, tips, or thoughts about the publicity tips we discussed already, Peggy Lee.
All right, great. Thank you so much. So I am Peggy Lee Hansen of Courageous Women Publications, and I publish books, yes, but more so what I do is that I help hesitant and inexperienced writers, especially business entrepreneurs, to share their brilliance, message, or story easily, effortlessly, and efficiently while they are writing a book. What I have a question, and it's about the videos. How old can they be? And also, how long should they be? I have done some expert interviews with a couple of my authors, and we did like 20-minute spots. And so are those too long to share and have on? So they need to be cut down shorter? And they're also like 3 years old.
Yeah, so I know I've seen a couple of your videos, and I would probably keep the content shorter, less than 3 minutes for an intro video. Minute and a half is probably as long as anybody's going to want to watch anything these days. You probably have noticed that the attention spans are getting shorter and shorter and shorter. So meet people at the level in which they're willing to engage you without having already established a relationship with you. So shorter content could lead to longer form content, meaning, Peggy Lee, if you have a video that you've done in the past where you were on stage and you were presenting your information, like the nuggets of wisdom that you're just dropping bombs left and right, and you want to send them to a longer form video, then what I would do is I would use short form video, meaning, like I said, 30 seconds, minute and a half, that gives them enough of your essence, your wow factor, your knowledge base that impresses them enough to want to go watch a 20-minute video. You can do that on a blog. So what we do on Tech with Heart Network is I interview these experts. I have my team go in and I, dress up the video a little bit with my intro and outro, and I put in a commercial so that it's promoting other aspects of what we do. But I'm also putting text on screen so that people who don't have a chance to maybe watch the whole 20 minutes, they can zoom around it and see what things are popping out and get aspects of value that way. But that long form content, I'm not expecting people to watch if they don't, have 20 minutes. So by putting it on a blog, I'm also giving them highlights of what we cover in that blog or in that video. So they're walking away with getting some value by just reading the blog, or they can watch the whole video and get even more of it. So there's different ways you can dissect your content down. But when it comes to intro videos on your website, I think they should be relevant, meaning they need to look like, remember we talked earlier about the continuity throughout your platforms, all your profiles. Like Peggy, I know you had short hair at one time, but now your hair is really long. So Jill will tell you this too. She says, if your image has changed drastically, you need to update your profiles to match you today. Because if somebody sees you doing nothing but presenting in short hair, and then they go to meet you and your hair is now this long, they're going to realize how outdated that footage was. And it's not going to feel fresh, and it's not going to feel as if you're on top of your game. I'm just saying it's a feeling. It's a feeling. Not that you're not on top of your game, but there's disconnect, there's dissonance, because the way you appeared there and the way you appear here is very different. So remember, they don't know you yet. So leave them no room for any doubt. And if you want, just get on Zoom with your beautiful background and just go straight into conversing with whoever is on the other end of that camera. Imagine you're talking to a client and just go straight into conversing with them about the problem that you solve and how you uniquely solve it. With recording, you're hitting record, and then just use that. It doesn't have to be a fully polished video if you don't have the budget for that. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, keep them modern. You want everybody to feel that you're on top of your game, super fresh, super relevant.
Okay, thank you.
I hope that helps you. Anybody else have any thoughts about those videos? Remember, it's all about image. Publicity is how you're being presented, how people are feeling about what they're seeing about you, what they're hearing about you, what they're reading about you. They're making their own judgments based upon what they're consuming. And don't disregard what is out there about you on Google. There's this thing called ZMOT score, and I think it's 0 moment of truth. 0 moment of truth, ZMOT. People will research you. Don't think for a second they're not. And if they go to research you, and you're saying one thing over here about how awesome and relevant and that you've done this and this and that, but there's no proof, no evidence, none of that online when they go to research you, what do you think they're going to do? They're probably not going to have that one-on-one with you to close that deal. They're not feeling it's authentic. So make sure you can back and support every claim that you make online. That is your resume. And keep your, I'm guilty of this, but keep your resume, update it. Like we just moved business offices. So all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I have to go and change all these locations online of where my business is located. And the list was quite extensive. And I'm just like, whoa, yo, that's a lot. But it's like so important to make sure that it happens, because it takes about 3 months for things to get picked up fresh on web crawlers, which is that the technology that goes and presents certain information on certain sites. So you want to make sure you're remembering to go in and change those things, like Google My Business, you got to change your address there. LinkedIn, if you're showing your address, you change it there. On Facebook, you know, anywhere where you have, or if you're on Yelp, big one there too. If you are a somebody that TripAdvisor is using to send people to, make sure that your business address gets updated, because again, it's all about how people are perceiving you. If your address is different in 4 different locations, they're going to go like, oh my goodness, that doesn't seem real. There's too much spamming, too much fake stuff out there. So you want to come across as real as it can be. Hope that helps. Okay. So we have talked a lot about some great tips. If you don't have any more questions, I think I would like to just go ahead and open it up. We have 8 people in our room. We can simply go around the room and introduce each other. We have had a chance to hear from George, Patricia, Louise, but we have not heard anything. And hopefully we are going to hear something from Asha. And then there is the document whisperer, and I can't see your name. Is it possible to put your name before the document whisperer so that people can call you out by your name? When you're in a room and it's, you know, people's profile pictures get shrunk down. And so it's good to put document whisperer if that's how you want to be known, but maybe your name should be first. Alicia, it looks like Elisha. All right, so Asha, are you open to unmuting and introducing yourself and sharing a little bit about the problem that you solve and how you uniquely solve it? You just have to unmute because we can't hear you. Do you know how to unmute? Still can't hear you. There's a little icon on the bottom if you're on your computer. On the bottom left is a little microphone icon. You have to click. Yes, there we go.
Yeah, I'm the editorial director, publisher, and marketing of Canadian Media, which is a digital news media publication of both national and international news on varied segments of society, such as health, politics, business, education, environment, biodiversity, science and research, First Nations, interviews of various members of society, as well as issues of humanitarian concerns, gender issues, famine, etc. I have access to quite a few digital media platforms for publication and promotion, and I promote businesses. I cover events, review of books, episodes of podcast. I do review of web series, review of short films, documentaries, films, editing, proofreading, copywriting services, and taking interviews. And in the recent times, in the recent months, I have taken interviews of Hollywood actors and actresses and directors. And the most innovative way I followed was just taking an interview based on the film. Instead of asking them, instead of reviewing the film, some of them wanted that I should just ask them questions about the movie and they would answer it. And that way they found it very easy. And I publish it on various digital media publications, to which I have access to.
So you're currently doing this through like a show, a TV show, or a podcast, or
digital media publication?
So digital media publication, meaning an online type magazine?
Yes.
Okay. So you interview them, and then you translate that interview into an online readable format?
Yes.
Okay. That's very interesting. Did you share your information in the chat here in case anybody is feeling like they might be a good fit for your magazine? Did you put that in the chat? Do you know how to do that?
I did not yet.
That would be a good idea. Are you looking for any particular type of guests, like if they're not Hollywood?
No, I do interviews with all sectors in society, in politics, in business, in healthcare, in all fields. I do interviews. In fact, in the Alignable group, I started taking interviews of various connections just to know each other. In that way, they could express themselves well about, instead of telling a story about themselves, if I ask them something, they would be able to tell more about it. So that way, it was a great success with many Alignable members.
That's so cool. I'm going to share a story based on what you're just saying. Now, when you get a chance to be a guest on somebody else's platform, like, you know, she was just talking about, she does this online magazine type thing. It is so great when you can start compiling these guest podcasts, these articles, this, you know, like I was featured in Inc. magazine, that's going to be always at the top of mine. You know, I was also interviewed by Kevin Harrington. So I'm going to keep that at the top because those are the more recognizable names that people might want to like look upon and watch to help them realize who I am and what I'm all about. Every time you get interviewed, it is good for you to keep within your zone, but switch it up just a little so that not every single interview is exactly the same. Because Peggy Lee, going back to the video, if this happens to be something that is getting videoed, what I can tell you and what I know is that when we are talking about why we do what we do and how we do it and how it's so great, we are emoting an energy that people love about us when we're meeting with them one-on-one, or if we're meeting with them in person. That is hard to replicate by just simply clicking the record button and just talking into the camera. So if you're able to get that video back from the guest or the host that had you on their show, then you can have a VA, a virtual assistant, go in and just dissect some of those little pieces out, capturing your essence of why your service is so unique and why it's made such a huge difference. So that's another great way to repurpose the publicity that you're getting. And then also on your website, you can actually create a website page called media, I think media. And then on that media, you can have like this section here is podcasts I've been a guest on. This has been articles that have been written about me. And so you can highlight your publicity. Good. Good on you for creating a platform in which you are getting others an opportunity to share who they are and their value and their worth. But also what it's doing is it's elevating you at the same time as an Oprah in your niche, right? You're creating a platform that is part of creating a stage and asking other people to speak on your stage. Well done. Cool, cool, cool. All right. So Alicia, would you like to unmute and share a little bit about who you are and the special sauce that you bring to the table?
As a document whisperer, we are a bridge between technologies that are constantly shifting and changing. We have a whole generation of individuals that are coming out of school systems used to Chromebooks, and they're entering a system that is based on Microsoft. So we are a bridge to help reduce frustration that individuals have being efficient with software. We also help with documentation because other systems beyond Microsoft and Google are also changing, and clear documentation so that people can use the systems efficiently is something that we're very good at updating and keeping up to date, including doing videos. We're very society-minded in terms of making sure that we have grants for individuals that have access to no way to get training other than Google or YouTube. And so we reach out to individuals who might have never had an opportunity to be trained because in schools, they're sat down to computers and just told to figure it out. And sometimes it's helpful to know some of the shortcuts and the easier way to get things done. And we are starting an event monthly, last Saturdays and last Sundays. Last Saturdays are on Facebook Live, and last Sundays are on Alignable. And we're going to be repeating that so that people can find out how do you use PowerPoint when you're on a Zoom call, and use it so it looks well.
That's super important stuff to teach, because that's the reason why Tech with Heart got started, actually, is because small business owners, they know they need to be utilizing more technology, but they're very intimidated to ask questions, especially because they don't want to be looked upon as not knowing. But at the same time, you don't know what you don't know, and it could be causing you to be super slow in how you're moving forward because you're not optimizing technology. So we provide through the Tech with Heart network, which I do invite you all to join. It's free, techwithheartnetwork.com. You will stay apprised as to all of these different meetings that we have, as well as we do have expert interviews. And so we push those out to give you guys more value. And also we have multiple community groups in which you can be sharing your expertise to be beneficial and helpful. But at the same time, what it does is it elevates you as an expert in that field. Alignable is a platform in which we do have Tech with Heart community group there. I need people to be, because it's a nonprofit, and I need to get more volunteers to help essentially kind of moderate some of these groups, because I don't want it to feel like all we're doing is just sharing our expert interviews. I want it to be more conversational, more beneficial, but I don't have the bandwidth myself. So if that is something, Alicia, on a nonprofit side, sounds like you're very heart-centered servant leader, in which you would be able to share tips around to the actual technologies.
Absolutely.
I think that, you know, just how to show up well on Zoom, how to show up, there's just so much that we could talk about. But the nature of Tech with Heart needs to be focused on human connection. So every time we talk about a technology, a tip or a trick, we want to also point to the value of making sure that you're focusing on the human being on the receiving end of that. And it should be only driven by making money. So like artificial intelligence is a super powerful technology that we should be adapting quicker rather than later into our business so that it can work for us. Like, if you had a personal assistant in your pocket, wouldn't you be thrilled? Like, wouldn't you be thrilled that you didn't have to do every single thing or think of every single thing that your assistant said, hey, what about such and such? And you'd be like, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, let's make sure we do that. Well, that's what artificial intelligence has the potential of becoming for us, is a helpmate that really is going to increase efficiencies with our businesses. But there's a long way to get there. But if we stay focused on ensuring that however we train our AI, that it's going to help us be relatable and not just sell more stuff, then that's what really matters. I think we can control, we build tech so that technology can help us. We cannot forsake the need for human connection above and beyond that technology.
Absolutely. It's more important than the technology, is the human person.
It's critical. And that's what's really going to make your legacy be memorable. It's not going to be about necessarily how much money you made off of other people. It's going to be how many lives did you impact? I think that's where I come from anyways, you guys. So if that sounds like something you're interested in helping out with on Alignable, I would really welcome the assistance in the Tech with Heart group on Alignable. Even on Facebook, and just somebody that cares about empowering people, not caring about making more sales. It's like, it's gonna happen. It just shouldn't be the focus. All right, well, thanks so much for coming today, guys. Here's to your success.